So good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out to the Save Africa History Foundation's, I believe, our first presentation of 2026. We are honored to have Valerie Coleman speak today about Rosenwald schools in Georgia. Valerie Coleman, I have my cheat sheet on the phone if you don't mind. Valerie Coleman is a native of Cuttersville, Georgia, and the curator of Bartow County's Noble Hill Weaver Memorial Center, a very nice museum if you have not been before. It's a former Rosenwald school. Her background is in hospitality and information systems. She has an interest in African American history, and genealogy, as well as family ties to the construction of the Noble Hill School, have been instrumental in her dedication to preserving this little-known piece of African American history. Without further ado, Valerie Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew Bramlett. I'm so happy to be here today, to be with you all, to share the history and legacy of some of the national story of the Rosenwald schools, and of course, Noble Hill, because that's my favorite topic. Okay. Here we go. And again, greetings from the Noble Hill Wheeler Memorial Center. I'm Valerie Coleman, and I'm the current curator there. And then, Bartow County is blessed to have two Rosenwald schools there. Here's one of the maps. Here's Summer Hill, as you can see right here. And I'm in the Cassville area. This is more in the city off of Auburn Street, for those of you that are familiar with Bartow County. And it's up near the pool, behind the pool. And I'm in the Cassville area, further north, going into Adairsville, Georgia, off of 41. So we're on Joe Frank Harris Parkway.
Yes. Is the one at Summer Hill open?
Yes, it is. You have to, their curator is not there every day.
Okay.
So you do have to call and make an appointment to visit. But they have been open a lot, of course, this month, but you do have to call and make an appointment. That curator should be here shortly. So you'll get to meet Alexis Callahan in a little while. Okay, so that's just a map if you don't know the area. Okay, and then here's the picture of the Summer Hill Heritage Foundation, and they're in the Summer Hill complex. This is more of their newer school. The Rosenwald school that was there before on top of the hill, it doesn't exist anymore. But they do have a museum inside of the Summer Hill complex, so you can learn all the history and legacy of the Summer Hill School. And so it's 129 Aubrey Street in Cartersville, Georgia. And this is me, the Noble Hill Wheeler Memorial Center, 2361 Joe Frank Harris Parkway, Cassville, Georgia. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. After the Civil War ended, the formerly enslaved began to open schools for their children. And Reverend Jefferson Milner, who has a day school for colored children, he was the first ever kept. It was the first ever kept in this county, September 22nd of 1866. Okay. And now we have Mr. Booker T. Washington, Dr. Booker T. Washington, and Mr. Julius Rosenwald. Have any of you heard about these people? Anything about the good things, right? Dr. Booker T. Washington was the founding president and first principal at Tuskegee University. Julius Rosenwald was the president of Sears Roebuck and Company. How many remember the Sears Roebuck and Company catalogs? So they collaborated to create what was known as the Rosenwald Fund, to build these schools, which are known now as the Rosenwald Schools. Okay, this was their agreement: community funds plus Rosenwald funds to get a new school in the different rural towns. So we had the African American families that raised money for these schools. We had the white school boards to raise the money for to get a school. They had to agree to support. And then we had other people in the community that donated. So that was the agreement. We always say Mr. Rosenwald was the man with the money, and Dr. Booker T. Washington was the man with the plan for these schools. All right, between 1912 and 1932, the Rosenwald Fund helped build 4,978 schools in 15 states throughout the South. Over 750,000 black students were taught at Rosenwald schools. 242 Rosenwald schools were built in Georgia, and 2 Rosenwald schools built in Bartow County, Georgia, and that's Summerhill and Noble. Okay, this is like a floor plan that we got. These schools were built to certain specifications due to no electricity in the building. I remember a story where when my grandmother went to the Noble Hill School, they would leave at lunchtime if it was like a nasty rainy day and they couldn't see to how to read their books and things. They would leave for lunch and not come back for the day if the weather was bad. But these buildings were built to certain specifications, so the light would come in on one side and of course the sun set on the opposite side. And they had a normal regular school day like the children do now. But this is just a floor plan. There were other blueprints and floor plans for these schools since they were built to certain specifications. Now I've heard that some of the bigger schools, a lot of the teachers lived on the property. And as far as Noble Hill School, one of the educators had a house built beside the school, which we call now the Wheeler Home. We're looking to rehab that and use it for the community. So we're working on several projects, but just so you know, some of them were bigger schools. Now I know Summer Hill's Rosenwald School back in the day, that school was pretty big. It was pretty long in size. It was a nice building. So it looked similar to this one. Most of them were like 1 room or 2 room schools. Okay. So we got this off of Fisk University, out of their archives, their new database. So if you want to know about if a school is in a different rural town or not, you can go on there and see what they have. They've uploaded a lot of good things. This just shows what was paid for the Catskill School in Bartow County off of 2 acres of land. It was a 2-teacher type, so it was a 2-room school. It was built under 1923 through 24 budget, and then the total cost was $2,125. That's cheap considering what we have to pay today just for a house to be built. But yes, that's wonderful then. And so the African Americans paid the $1,000. It says here the whites $25, the public $400, and Rosenwald matched what was raised, and he paid a percentage, and his percentage was $700. So he didn't just go to different towns building the schools. He made it to where the community worked together so African American students would have a place to get their education. Of course, it was, I'm sure you guys heard of the Brown versus the Board of Education. Brown versus the Board of Education, separate but equal. So they were just making sure those students had somewhere to learn. Because I've heard some stories from my alumnus at Noble Hill where they, prior to having the school, they were having school like in family members' homes, bush arbors in the woods. Because prior to the 1920s, African American students couldn't learn in a regular school like today. So a lot of them were taught like in church classrooms at their church. So that was that. So That's just to show you how they learned prior to the 1920s. All right, and this is another picture of the Cassville School. It looks a little bit better today because we've had some rehab done on it. So hopefully you guys can, when you have time, come and visit us whenever you're available. But this is another great picture from Fisk University's database. Okay. And this is, okay, here comes the family ties. This is my great-great-grandfather, Mr. Webster Wheeler. He built the school in Cassville in 1923. It opened as a school in 1924. So that's the start of my family ties. And this is Mr. Harris. He was one of the builders. My grandfather was the chief contractor. And he had, of course, a group of men to help him. And of course, the community as well. But they were the two that spearheaded the building project. These were our first two educators at the Nobleville School. I can't remember their names now, Mary.
Professor C.W. Williams.
Yes, C.W. Williams and Myra Williams. She taught the lower grades, 1 through 3. He taught the upper grades, 4 through 7. Okay, and this is just some pictures of some of the students that attended the school. Okay, so the school sat dilapidated for 25 years. They were there from 1924. The students went to school there from 1924 till 1955. In 1955, they moved to a more modernized school with a cafeteria. So all the schools in the county, African American students consolidated to this one school called the Bartow Elementary School. And it's where, if you're familiar with Bartow County and the county area, it used to sit where Hamilton Crossing sits today. Okay, so we're getting ready for the restoration project. This is my great-great-auntie right here, the beautiful Dr. Susie Wings Wheeler, right here. We call her a career student. She was always in school and always traveling. And this is former Supreme Court Justice of Georgia, Mr. Robert Benham. He was on the Supreme Court. He was one of the judges in Atlanta. And he's still around today. He still comes to visit and walks down memory lane and gives me history lessons when he feels I need one. So I enjoy him coming by to check on us and see what we're doing. But these are the two souls in our community, icons really, that paid it forward to start the restoration project in the community. Dr. Wheeler wanted to save her school. She saw the need where in the 80s, early 80s, she was like, I think she talked to Dr. Elizabeth Lyon, and she was working with the Preservation Division, and she asked her, you think we can save the school? She said, definitely. So she did the work and brought the community together. And of course, pulled a lot of family and friends in, colleagues and different things like that. And she just made it happen. But Dr. Wheeler was a beloved icon in our town, and so of course the Honorable Judge Robert Benham. They're huge icons in our town. But we're just grateful. They're the reasons we're still here today. Okay. And this is a picture of the school after it was restored, after 25 years being dilapidated. This is what came to fruition in 1989. So now it serves as a museum. We have luncheons there. The retired educators are coming next week for their luncheon in honor of Dr. Wheeler. And they update me on the new curriculums and everything that they have at the schools presently. So they always come. Different groups come in for luncheons and parties and different things like that. Next thing. Okay. And how many of you have read this book, saw this book? Okay, quite a few. Awesome. So, I met Mr. Andrew Filer, was it 2018, Marion? 17? He came to Noble Hill first before he did this photo documentary. And he also knew the late, great John Lewis. He did the foreword in this book. And then he was also excited when he come and he said, Val, guess what? I said, what, Andrew? He said, I have Valerie Jarrett's email address. I was like, okay, what's the big deal? You know? And he was so excited. So I was happy for him that he was that excited. But that was one of Obama's aides. Her family had an attachment to the Rosenwald schools. I think it was her great-grandfather that was an architect that had the blueprints for these schools, and I thought that was wonderful. I was like, okay, you're teaching me something now. I'm ready to hear more. So he came to do a photo shoot with me and my Aunt Marion. She's right in the back. This is my mom's oldest sister. Raise your hand, Marion. She attended the Noble Hill School in the 50s. And also Mr. Donald Jones, we call him Uncle DJ. He also attended the school in the 1950s. So we were very honored when Andrew came to us to work on this project. So I think we can say we got first dibs on everything. Because he told me, you guys got the most pictures in the book. I said, oh, really? And he was like, yeah. I said, okay, great. But this is a picture of the school and a picture of me and my Aunt Marion holding a picture of my great-great-grandfather that built the school in 1923. So I thought we were honored. It was a blessing to us that he even thought to come to us. But our names were being discussed in rooms that we didn't know of. So we were grateful. And Andrew is a wonderful, wonderful person. He always keeps in contact with us. And we were grateful to be a part of his traveling exhibit. He first had it in the Civil Rights Museum. I took a group down to Atlanta when it first went up. And we had a great time. And different ones from Cartersville, all around, they wanted to come with us to see it. And it was a great thing. And then we were blessed to meet so many people that was interested in these schools, because a lot of them were becoming extinct. That's why Dr. Wheeler wanted to save her school, so she could pay it forward and for us to keep moving on with the vision that she had and tell the history and legacy of this school and the people that went there. Okay? Right now, I want to show you an interview that we did with Michelle Miller. And you can also find this on YouTube. And I'm going to play this for you all. And then it'll just give you some more information about these schools.
I don't think I have the sound on the TV on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, is it on YouTube?
Yeah. It's right here.
I've been getting the weirdest YouTube ads recently.
Oh, okay. You can click
About
on
on Bluetooth.
it. There it is.
That's not too bad, it's just weight loss medication.
Oh, it's
Okay. Oh, it's not on the screen. That's weird. This TV has been the bane of my existence today. I'll tell y'all. Can you see that?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Okay.
In 1937, they provided an opportunity for hundreds of thousands of poor African Americans to be educated in the 70s. fact that construction has been called one of the most effective philanthropic endeavors of the 20th century. But the story of the schools and their benefactor remains largely unknown today. We traveled to Georgia last week to learn about the past and the impact of these institutions and what they're still having on us today. From above, it seems ordinary, a simple white house an hour northwest of Atlanta. But when the Noble Hill School was constructed nearly 100 years ago, it was revolutionary.
This was my school. Before us, we weren't even allowed to be taught.
Marion Coleman and 4 generations of her family were educated here, one of thousands of schoolhouses built over 3 decades that transformed African American education in the rural South.
We weren't really free to do or to think that we could accomplish more. But when we were able to get the school, and this just made the foundation so that we could really believe in ourselves, and the teachers helped us to know that we were able to move forward now.
They became known as Rosenwald schools, named after wealthy industrialist Julius Rosenwald, the president of retail giant Sears.
This is an important Southern story. This is an important American story. This story transforms America.
Photographer Andrew Filer is telling that story in black and white. A story that grew out of a friendship between Rosenwald, the son of Jewish immigrants, and noted educator Booker T. Washington, founding president of the Tuskegee Institute.
Tuskegee, the institute which he founded.
Together, they sought to reverse years of inequality in education because of slavery and segregation.
This story are the pillars of my life. The relationship between Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington is the foundation of the Black-Jewish alliance that becomes a pillar of the civil rights movement.
In 1912, they launched a pilot program, building 6 schools in Alabama, requiring local communities to donate the land and raise matching funds. What were they trying to defeat?
Schools started off as being segregated. They were trying to get through that part.
What does that do to a child?
Well, to me, that would dishearten them and give them make them feel like they didn't matter.
Within 25 years, 4,978 schools were built across 15 states. Buildings of basic design, 2 rooms with a removable partition, large windows to let in light, and a plain exterior to avoid unwanted attention. These little schools had such a profound impact. Can you put it into words?
There are economists at the Federal Reserve Bank that have done 5 studies of Rosenwald schools, and what their analysis shows is that prior to World War I, there was a large and persistent black-white education gap in the South. That gap closes precipitously between World War I and World War II. And the single greatest driver of that achievement, and it is an achievement, is Rosenwald schools.
I think our educational system today,
Yes.
I wonder what could be learned from a deeper dive into the Rosenwald history.
We often think that problems in America, public policy problems in America, are so intractable, particularly those related to race. At the center of this story is Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington reaching across divides of race, religion, and region, partnering with black communities and white school boards to fundamentally change America.
Only about 500 schools remain, relics of a time before legal segregation ended in 1954. Some have been repurposed or rebuilt, but many are in disrepair, forgotten by the communities they served. Filer spent 3.5 years documenting them. His photographs are on display at the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in Atlanta, an effort to help preserve their legacy. Why don't we know this?
Julius Rosenwald was a very modest man. He did not name these schools Rosenwald schools. They become known as Rosenwald schools. One of the reasons why we don't know the Rosenwald name as much as we know the names of some of his philanthropic contemporaries like Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford.
They were monument builders.
They were.
He was a legacy builder.
Yes.
That legacy is still being felt. Many of those educated at Rosenwald schools went on to higher education and in turn educated future generations. prominent leaders of the civil rights movement, like Medgar Evers, Maya Angelou, and Congressman John Lewis, came through these institutions. Today, Noble Hill is a museum run by Marion's niece, Valerie, generations removed from the school, but steeped in its history.
It's not just African American history to us, it's also American history. This is not just a job for me, this is legacy.
It is such an amazing place to go and to see how a community has so embraced or re-embraced this school. I knew nothing about these schools.
Makes me want to visit Noble Hill.
I know, but there is a book that Filer put together, A Better Life for Their Children, the foreword written by John Lewis. And in it he says, their partnership demonstrates that concerted action can make America better and the world better. Education is the cornerstone of democracy.
Come across the aisle, come across colors, come across religion, come together and educate.
Yes.
Beautiful piece, Michelle.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
story.
you, Chris Weigel.
So that was June of 2021, June 3rd, that we were blessed to meet Michelle Miller and her crew.
You know, Valerie, one thing too about Mr. Rosenwald, if you're familiar with Gordon Parks, the photographer, who had many of the iconic photos during the civil rights, Julius gave him, Gordon Parks, a fellowship to go learn under Ron Sprider, who was with the Farm Project, right? And for a year, Julius Rosenwald gave him it was $1,800, which was equal to $35,000, right, for a year to tutelage under this. And just for his pictures, Gordon Parks did movies and everything, right? So you don't hear that part, but it's behind the shadows.
It's more stories, yes. I'm discovering new stories every day.
Yes, hi Valerie,
Hi.
thanks so much for this presentation and all the work that you and your family are doing in terms of preservation. This is just such a fascinating story, fascinating history. I am curious though about, have you all established an alumni association, and are you able to take advantage of any of the technology that we have today in terms of keeping former members of the school in touch with one another?
Mr. Donald Jones, he started linking us to most of the Rosenwald schools and surrounding counties. So yes, we have been participating in events with them. We did go to Hiram, their Rosenwald school, last year to commemorate and celebrate their 95 years of being there. So it was a wonderful program that we went to participate in. But Mr. Donald Jones, who is a student of the Noble Hill School, he played a major role in connecting all of us. But yeah, we are connecting and kind of feeding off of what we're doing as a whole, and getting more ideas and networking and meeting more people.
And then just one more question, I apologize, I'm gonna have to sneak out.
Okay.
Just in terms of what has this meant, the education of the Rosenwald schools, to your family on a personal level?
On a personal level, we're just blessed. It means everything, because Dr. Weaver would be so proud today that we're still standing and we didn't let it die, let the vision die that she had for her school. And I found out recently when Alexis Callahan, she just stepped in. Hey, Alexis. She's one of our historians, and she's the curator of the Summer Hill School. Anyway, I was just letting him.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
I just
I'll come back.
wondered, how did the relationship between Mr. Washington and Mr. Rosenwald come about? Did Booker T. Washington pursue that with education in mind, or I know it's an interesting story.
Well, they were part of some committee or board. I think that's how they initially met at Tuskegee. And then, they started working on different projects together. And then they saw the need for these schools to be built in rural towns, so they formed a friendship. And as I said before, one had the money, one had the plan. So I think they became friends first, and then they started projects together.
I'm sure it's a great story.
Oh yes. And we're if you guys are interested, on the 21st of this month, Noble Hill, we're showing the Rosenwald story. If you're interested in coming by to learn a little bit more, Alexis.
If you click one more spot.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. There we go, right here. Here's the flyer. We're also doing a bake sale this Saturday on Valentine's. If you want to come through and get your sweetheart something sweet and nice. But yeah, but February 21st, we're hosting this to see the story initially, and it's going to tell you a lot about how a lot of this did come about, with them collaborating to get this project going, this initiative going. But yes.
Did you get any kind of a bump up in interest after you appeared on TV?
Well, I grew up around the Noble Hill School. My Aunt Marion, she was the longest running curator there, and of course a student. So I kind of grew up around there. We used to have, it's no longer in session, but we used to have a summer heritage program for the kids in the community. I was kind of used to being around, and when I was in school, in college, I introduced Excel spreadsheets to Marion. I was like filling in, like when I didn't have to be at school or at work, I would fill in and teach her some things, and she'd teach me some history. But when I became the curator in 2017, September 18th of 2017, I didn't know as much as I thought I did. I started learning more things. She kept telling me more stories. So now it's near and dear to my heart, because growing up as kids, you don't like history and you barely like school. But it just hits me harder now, because I was like, oh my God, all of this is happening and I didn't even realize that I was a kid or a young person. And just to hear the stories, it just resonates, and it's just so wonderful to learn this history of the family, and then other people in the community as well that help with the initiatives and the projects. They had quilt shows. They did all kinds of things to raise money for the center. And we're just trying to, like I say, I don't try to walk in Dr. Weaver's shoes. I'm just going to make my own path. Now we're working on several projects for us. We're trying to erect a statue of Dr. Wheeler, and we're working with her granddaughter and Alicia. She was blessed to be able to do her dissertation. She got a PhD in education like her grandmother in 2022. And Marion and I were on Zoom and we got to witness that dissertation. And I was like, is this a conflict of interest? She said, no, they want me to do this. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So she would come in and out of town, because they live in Birmingham, Alabama, to do some research. I'm still waiting on her to send me some of my artifacts back. But she's going to. But we were just blessed that she even followed in her grandmother's footsteps. The only way they butted heads was she pledged AKA and Dr. Wheeler was a Delta. And so that's when they didn't agree. But she said, I wanted to be like my mom. I wanted to be an AKA. So Dr. Wheeler was like, okay, fine, But yeah, so she did a lot of research. She met Andrew here at KSU. And she told me about you, Andrew. And she's like, you gotta meet this guy, he's such a genius. I said, okay, I need to meet this guy. And so Andrew spoke at U Harley, and that's when I met him. And then I had to call her and say, hey, I met Andrew Brumlett. He is a genius. And then Andrew and his father and his brother came to visit. I think it was after COVID. Was it after COVID?
I think so.
Right after COVID. And they were there, and we talked and laughed and had a great time, you know.
And it was well worth the experience. The knowledge and everything that she shared, absolutely wonderful.
And it's just because, like I say, it's legacy. It's not just a job for me. I go to work every day having fun. I mean, yes, it's not all peaches and cream. You know, you got to do the hard stuff too. But I can say this is my favorite job because I get to meet different people from all walks of life. I have college students to come and visit. Local schools come in to visit. Charter schools have been coming to visit. So it's just been such a blessing to share just the history and the legacy as a whole. It means everything.
I have two questions.
Okay.
So something in the interview that kind of stuck out was when the interviewer mentioned how the school itself was like a house.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that, like why the infrastructure was looking like?
Okay. Yes, a lot of people call Noble Hill. It looks like a house. Yes, I think they built these schools to a certain standard and specification because, of course, we talked about the sunlight. They didn't have any electricity. And I think also a lot of these schools were hidden, like in the woods, because I call Noble Hill our hidden jewel in the woods because it's in a wooded area. We're working on getting some of the trees cut down. Some trees have been cut down, and I just feel like, you know, it was a kind of safe space for kids to be educated at the time. And so I think that's why they had it to a certain specification for the sunlight and, you know, to make sure they were protected and, you know, nothing happened and different things like that. So.
But they also cut down on one of the things about the Rosenwald schools. They leveraged some of the same blueprint. And,
yes.
And so that way that took some of the cost of it. It's almost, I don't want to say prefab, but it was kind of like the whole Sears concept
yes.
of putting things together. I can say too, Rosenwald, with being at Sears, I can see now my siblings and us fighting over the Sears and Roebuck Christmas.
Yes, me too.
But and for the African American community that couldn't walk into certain stores, there was
right.
the Sears catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd fight over it. Mom and Dad would just say, hey, write the serial number down and put it on your list.
Mm-hmm.
But that came out of that as well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things that are
yes.
interconnected with that.
And one thing to Tim, you could probably answer better than I can, say better than I can. This building is flipped.
It is flipped when it was moved from its original site. Facing the street is the rear of the building, and the front was at that end.
Okay.
Are each school responsible for their own curriculum, or was it standardized across all of Rosenwald schools?
You want to answer that, Mary?
No standard.
No. They create, well, I know for a fact when my grandparents went to the Noble Hill School, they didn't have a curriculum. They had to create one for the students. And they had the hand-me-down books from the white schools. So they just made it work. Like you all sitting today, like in rows, they had the first grade on one row, the second grade on the next row, the third grade. And what happened was the teacher would teach the first graders first, once the bell rang when the school started. And then they would move back to the classroom, in the back of the classroom, and do their coursework. And then the second grade would move to the front row, and they would be taught. That's why these kids are so intelligent, because they were soaking in everything that they heard in one day. So, you know, so that's just how it started. But of course, now you see how we progressed. They started off with the two teachers.
Yeah. We're glad you're here, and I live in Bartow. How in the world did the city of Atlanta let you come out here in the rural area and build the school? That they didn't say you gotta build it in Atlanta?
That's a question for Marion. Look, I'm still learning this. These are the experts, they lived it.
Mexicans were in the rural areas. Most of them were
Yeah, most of them were.
in southern states, and they were mostly in the rural areas.
Was there a tuition that was paid, or how were ongoing expenses met, you reckon?
No, there wasn't a tuition paid, but the parents had to work together to fund books if they've got books and anything that they had.
They say
anything extra had to be funded by the parents.
But they got personal funding from the county, didn't they?
That might have been some.
Very partial.
Very good. Yeah. For the most part, the families got together.
Yeah, most of them.
They would have like, what were some of the things that the parents did, like chicken dinners, fish fries?
They did all kinds of things, you know.
Book shows.
My mom was she was the president of the PTA. And she kept a book, but I didn't realize she kept that book until she just passed away, and I was looking through her things, but she had it noted in there that they would have certain meetings, and you had to pay dues. Some people would pay a nickel, some people would pay 2 pennies. And to raise money for the school, they would have things like fish fries, sell chicken. And I remember some of my uncles would donate. They would donate chickens to the thing, so they did whatever they had to do to raise money.
To the community.
Right.
Yeah, and to support the schools.
I want you guys to hear a personal account. Uncle DJ, you want to come and just share a little bit of your experience going to the Rosenwald school?
I want to know why you had those switches. I'm getting.
Okay, you got to tell them.
I'm getting some flashbacks. I mean, you know.
You see, I got my shirt, my logo here said I was going to put it on, but it's so hot. So I didn't put it on. I got on my 5K shirt. But anyway, I was a student. I went to school at the Norwood Hill School in Cartersville for the 4th grade. They had a petition. They had grades 1, 2, 3 in one room, and 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the other room. And the guy wanted to know why I got these switches is because when I was in school, this is what you got your butt. Wasn't no time out and all this kind of stuff they got now. You know, this was your time out. But
We need those backwards.
I don't have any balls or anything in here, y'all, so don't When I first started school in the 1st grade at Rosenwald Hill, I lived in a different community. And we had a school bus that drove us to school every day. I had 3 brothers that were ahead of me. They had gone to school in the church before we went to Rosenwald Hill, you know. And when I got to Rosenwald Hill the first day and I heard something go, of course I said, what the hell is this? But anyway, this was the way that they would tell you it's time to come in. It wasn't Miss Bell, but it was something similar, you know. Yeah. Of course, we didn't have, we had heaters, wooden heaters. So some of the older boys that would get to school, they would make the fire with the heater. And that's pretty much how we kept them on every day. We had no indoor cafeteria. We had to take our own lunch to school. My mother would get up in the morning and cook ham, whatever she had, and she would put it in a. You took this to school. This was your lunch. You know. And this same bag, you didn't throw it away that day. You know, you took the same bag back home and used it over and over. And there's a few grease spots on this bag. I did that on purpose, but that's how the bag would look, you know.
Yeah.
And every day when you got to school, you had a certain place to put your lunch.
Yeah.
Until time to eat. There were some people that were not fortunate enough to bring a lunch. They didn't have anything. So there would be some days I was going to get my lunch and my lunch wasn't there. And somebody would have gotten my lunch, you know, out of the list. They were hungry. And I knew who was getting my lunch, but I never said anything to the girl. And she passed away several years back, and I never told her that I knew that she was getting my lunch.
I would have told her.
Well, I told my mother, and my mother said, no, don't say anything to her. They don't have any, they can't bring her lunch. Now, I was always the smallest guy in the class. So they had this one guy, you know, in the morning we would have class, and then we would have something called a recess. That'd be time out to go out and play. So this guy would always wanted me to ride his back. He'd play like he was my mule. But I always had candy in my pocket. And when time to go back in, when the lady would ring the bell to go back in, my candy was missing. But he was getting my candy, you know, but I didn't know what was going on. My oldest brother finally told me, stop riding the guy's back, you know. I'll be getting him candy every day. Let me see, I got something else over there. We had no indoor facility, no indoor water, no toilets. So y'all know what this is? Wait a minute. Some of y'all don't know what this is. You don't know what this is? No. That's an outhouse.
Oh, yeah.
I know some of y'all just as old as I am. I know you know.
Yeah, ours mostly had roofs on them.
Mine's
Yeah.
got roofs somewhere up there.
Oh, there it is, there it is.
And you can't see all the detail.
Anyway, that's one. So they had two of these outside. They had one for the boys and one for the girls. And when you had to use the restroom, you know, you had to ask the teacher, can I be excused? In the first and second grade and third grade, it was okay, you know, for the girls and boys to go out at the same time. But when the boys got in about the seventh grade, you couldn't. When time to go out, the teacher would figure out whether it was a girl outside or a boy, because you know some of those boys at that point, they had something on their mind. You know? But now this is I know that's more modern.
Yeah, that's Sears and Roebuck.
Yeah. You know, speaking of Sears and Roebuck, I remember those catalogs very well. But I remember too that having in our house, we didn't have toilet tissues like we got today. So you take that old Sears catalog, tear a leaf out of there and scrub it up a little bit, and, you know, that's what you use, you know. I remember one time my mama was looking for the Sears catalog and she couldn't find it and I had 5 brothers, but we had the Sears card thing in our house, you know. We've been looking at old warm toys and stuff, but we tear a page out and use it to wipe yourself, you know. But these were what they used back in the day, you know. Some of the bigger boys, you know, the teacher would take 2 of these and wrap them around each other, you know. Where when she hit you, it wouldn't break, you know. But I enjoyed my time in Noble Hill, you know. I went to Noble Hill, my first 4 years was there, and then I went to, in 1955 when they consolidated the schools, I went to the school, and then I graduated from Summer Hill High School. And then I went to college down at Bull Valley State, 4 years. Got my degree, going to be a school teacher. My degree was in elementary education. So during that time, I mean, for blacks in Cartersville, that was a top job. Otherwise, you'd be in the factories making minimum wages. So anyway, as long as I was in college, it was during the height of the Vietnam War. So as long as I was in college, I could get a deferment. So I got out of college, got a job teaching school up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Got drafted in March of the same year I finished, the following year. I finished college in 1967, taught school for like 6 or 7 months, and then in March of 1968, I got drafted. So when I went in the military, you know, I was obligated to do 2 years. And the guy told me, he said, Mr. Jones, if you sign up for another year, you probably won't go to Vietnam and you won't be in them. So that I took him at his word. Went to basic training, AIT, advanced training. First level, South Vietnam. But I served a year in Vietnam, and then I had some time to do once I came back from Vietnam and served. But I never got back into education, teaching school, you know. Had a lot of issues when I came back from Vietnam. Still have some, but not nearly as severe as they were back then. But I worked with Noble Hill, and I worked with Noble Hill because that was my school, but I worked with them because I missed out working with children as a, you know. But anyway, that's where I am. So anybody want to ask me any questions?
How far did the further students, you know, how far did they have to come, and then how did they get there?
What's that? I didn't hear you first.
As far as like going and coming to school, I'm sure, you know, some students live a good distance from the school, because you're talking about for all of Baltimore County, you had 2 schools. Baltimore is a pretty big county, so how did the students go and come, get back and forth between the school and home?
Well, this school, Noble Hill, it was just people from the area, Castle area, and they walked to school. But I lived in a little area called, the Mission Community, and we rode the bus there. But every little area in Bato County had their own school. You know, until 1955, people in Taylorsville, Emerson, Dansville, Kingston, all those places, they had schools in their communities. They weren't Rosenwald schools. But I had to ride the bus about 7 miles to school.
Okay.
asked a guy a while ago about this camera. I asked him, I said, "Are you in the police, are you?" No, I'm good, though.
Nice.
So any other questions? Anybody got any questions you want to ask me?
Were there any intimidation with kids walking that distance through people's neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff? Were there any issues with that type of stuff?
No, back then, no, man.
You got no switches.
I'm 80 years old. But back during that time, everybody in the community had to say so over you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I lived in the Michigan community. There were people in Sugar Valley, there were people in Cartersville. If I did something wrong, I mean, they would chastise me and it would be no problem. You know, it wasn't like it is now. If an elderly person said something to you and you said something about it the way back to them and your parents found out about it, you get your ass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The other thing too, back then we didn't have phones, we didn't have no telephone.
Right.
I rode the bus 7 miles to school. And if me or one of my brothers did something in school that we shouldn't have done, by the time we rode that bus back home in the evening, my mama knew about it. I don't know how the hell she did that. That was wrong. But I'm saying, I mean, that's how it was. You know what I'm saying? Right. She said, "Boy, why did you do that at school?" "Mama, yes, you did, you know." But, and like I say, in the communities, man, you know, the community where I live, there were people that were not related to me, you know, but if I did something that I wasn't supposed to do, they would chastise me. And I wasn't going to go pick up no gun or, like I say, if my daddy find out you get your back, you get a whipping.
Well, thank you.